Welcome back to another edition of Arizona Wildcats Insiders Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Hutchison, and we are officially 9 days away from Arizona kicking off its 2025 college football season, with the Wildcats opening things up against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors on TNT at Arizona Football Stadium. Now, Arizona is in the later half of its training camp. We've been through a couple weeks, several practices of the Wildcats getting ready for the upcoming season. We've seen Seth Dagey, the new offense coordinator, what he's going to be doing offensively in terms of the scheme and style of play. Danny Gonzalez implementing his new defense as he got promoted from the linebacking coach to the defense coordinating position. And Brett Brennan, a new energy out there in his second year as Arizona Wildcats football coach. Again, the whole staff has brought a new vibe compared to last year, where Brennan talks about not having to quote unquote kiss people's asses anymore and try to keep them on the roster. Like you said, during their Big 12 media day, they're not worried about that anymore. They're full go, full free, not having to worry about players entering the portal. The players that are here want to be here and play for these coaches and play for the university. So they're not worried about that anymore. They're getting everybody fully ready to go and set for the 2025 season. Now, we've been through a lot of camp. We've seen a lot of football. We've seen freshmen have top performances, returners looking like they've improved from a season ago. Again, you're not going to quite know until you see them against an opponent out there in live action, but things seem to be progressing for Arizona on all sides of the ball. Last year, the offensive line struggled mightily. The answer to that was Josh Oglesby and Brennan bringing in a ton of offensive linemen through the transfer portal and around 5 to 6 in the recruiting class, totaling 20 offensive linemen on Arizona's roster, which is an extremely high number compared to years past. But then again, with the way of the world of college football right now, you're probably going to see offensive line numbers go up, defensive line numbers go up, and roster totals go up in comparison to years past. So let's focus on the defensive side of the ball and talk about that defensive line. Last year, Arizona struggled. Again, a lot of it had to do with injuries. Dwayne Aquina, even though a highly successful defensive back coach and a great defensive mind, had issues down the stretch of the season as players got hurt, players got banged up. You saw walk-ons playing. You saw freshmen that weren't ready to play having to fill those roles, and those guys just weren't ready. And the defensive scheme really didn't change that much, forcing Brennan to make a move there at defense coordinator, promoting Danny Gonzalez, who had a vast experience as a DC at San Diego State and Arizona State before becoming the New Mexico head coach. But against the run, Arizona struggled. The edge rushers were solid. Trey Smith was solid, but banged up for most of the year. The defensive tackles, they got banged up. They were dropping like flies, and it caused issues there on the line. You saw guys like Julian Savanea, who weren't ready to play in big time minutes and big time snap counts and big time football, and they struggled. They struggled mightily. So they went out, got a ton of transfers on the defensive line, added some pieces on the defensive line through the recruiting class, but mainly looking at JUCO guys and guys in the transfer portal to add depth that it didn't have from a season before. In 2023, Arizona was 23rd against the run, one of the better rush defenses in the country. And look how that turned out. They went 10-3 and rolled through the Pac-12 in the second half of the Pac-12 schedule and won their bowl game over Oklahoma. Last season, I don't even think they're in the top 50. And that's a huge drop-off. That's not where the defense wants to be. And Danny Gonzalez has talked about getting back to the defensive mindset that has been Arizona football throughout its history, from Larry Smith and Ricky Hundley and Chuck Cecil setting the tone, and Byron Evans, to the Dick Tomey era, the Desert Swarm era, and creating the greatest defense in the 90s and one of the better defenses in the history of college football. That's what he wants to get back to. Even the Mike Stoops era. Mike Stoops had great defenses, and it all started with the defensive front. That's how you win football games, is up front. So Arizona went out and they landed Tia Savea, which is a very familiar name for Arizona Wildcat fans. Savea transferred into Arizona after playing one season at UCLA when Johnny Nansen became the defense coordinator here. had some success, was a rotational defensive tackle, highly talented, got banged up from time to time underneath Nansen, but was a major piece of that defensive line. And then after Nansen left and the coaching change happened, all of a sudden Sevilla jumped ship to Texas with Nansen, understandably so. Played one season where he didn't see much playing time with the Longhorns. And again, you go from Arizona, you go from UCLA to Arizona. Both programs, they need help on the defense line, so you're going to play a lot. To a program like Texas, where you're rolling out 300-pounders left and right, you have your pick of defense linemen not only in the state of Texas, state of California, Arizona, and sometimes in the South as well. You're going to be going up against a lot of 300-pound guys competing for a spot that maybe you'll get 4 players out there on the field on the defensive line. There's not a lot of opportunity. There's a ton of 4- and 5-star recruits on those Texas fronts. So he transfers back to Arizona, given that, Joe Salavea was the guy that recruited him when he was at Oregon and Miami. There's a huge connection there. So Tia Zavea has come back. He's looked great in training camp. He's one of the top defensive linemen on the roster, has done a great job of filling the middle, forcing the run game either direction and not right at him. Got in the backfield, created a little chaos there. He looks highly improved, and his biggest thing is if he stays healthy, he's going to be an all-conference D tackle this season. Whether that be first or second team, he has the talent to make that jump for Arizona, and I think he's going to have a great year for the Wildcats. Now let's go on the edge. One guy that I want to talk about is Trey Smith. Brought him up earlier. He had a good, solid season last year, but he was playing through injuries. Trey was dealing with a lot of leg injuries and stuff like that, and yet he played through it. The bumps and grinds of the college football season started to pile up on him, and he finished with 4.5 sacks. In comparison, at San Jose State, he had 6.5 the year prior. Now, again, one of the things was that he was weighing in around 240, 250. He has built himself up this offseason with the training staff. He's at 262, looking more like a defensive end and less like an outside linebacker that blitzes a lot. A lot more upper body strength, has great footwork, great hand technique, has looked really good in training camp right now, and has given the offensive line the business day in and day out. I look at him as Arizona's top pass rusher. What does that look like on the football field? Maybe, 8 to 10 sacks this year, which is a high number for college football. I think he's a guy that can work himself into the NFL draft and create havoc for the Wildcats. So I like Trey Smith a lot. I love what he's done this spring or this training camp, and it looks like it's going to be a good season for the edge rusher in his final year of college football. And then lastly, one of the guys that they were able to get out of the transfer portal was Deshaun McKnight from UT Martin. And, he was listed at 300, but I think he's around 280, 290. But, man, this D tackle can move. For what he lacks in size, which he really doesn't lack when he's out there on the field, he's very strong, great upper body. He makes up for in his footwork and technique. He gets off the line like a shot of lightning. He's looked really good against the run. Again, forcing the run one way or the other or straight up stopping it. And he's been able to get to the quarterback and chase them down for sacks. He's a highly talented player. The only criticism I'm going to give him is he wears number 0 now on the D tackle at the D tackle position. That's not a defensive lineman number. Come on, man. You got to be in the 90s. But I love what I've seen. Highly athletic, got a great motor and great pursuit to the football. I think it's going to be a good year for McKnight. I think he's going to be a player that Arizona fans are going to be excited about. I think he's going to have a big season. And he's another guy that could be an all-conference performer or an all-conference honorable mention. Again, D tackles, it's a little harder because you don't necessarily pile up the stats. You're not getting the sacks, the tackles for loss because you're clogging the middle. But, man, he is an exciting football player to watch. I think he's highly athletic. I think he could even play him out on the side. If Arizona was deeper on the defensive line, you could put McKnight out on the side as a strong edge rusher and be very comfortable. So he has those skill sets, and it's going to be exciting to watch him this season. For more coverage of Arizona football as we get closer to kickoff, go to our website, Arizona Wildcats on SI, or follow the Arizona Wildcats on SI Twitter at Arizona Wildcats on SI, or follow me, Troy Hutchison, at THutch1995.